Captain Lisa Morgan was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency alarm screamed through the UES Defiance. She dropped her cup and ran to the bridge where her crew was already at their stations. Commander Kate Sullivan turned to face her with a worried look on her face. "Captain, we have incoming transmission from 3 unknown ships," Kate said while pointing at the main screen. Lisa looked at the display and felt her stomach drop. 3 massive vessels hung in space like dark mountains against the stars. Each ship was different, but all of them were bigger than anything humans had ever built. "Put them through," Lisa ordered as she sat in her command chair. The screen flickered, and 3 alien faces appeared. The first was a reptile woman with scales that glowed with strange colors. The second looked like a giant insect with many eyes that moved independently. The third was made of what seemed like living crystal that pulsed with inner light. The reptile woman spoke first, and her voice was cold and full of pride. "I am Admiral Zixandra of the Reptilian Hegemony. We speak for 3 great powers that have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years." She paused, and her scales shifted from blue to angry red. "You humans and your elf neighbors have become too bold. You expand into space like you own it, but you are nothing compared to us." The insect woman clicked her mandibles before speaking. "I am Veltara of the insectoid swarm. Our fleets number in the thousands while yours are scattered and weak. You build colonies on worlds that should belong to your betters." Her multiple eyes fixed on Lisa with obvious disgust. "Your kind thinks too much and acts without proper order." The crystal being's voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "I am Krisha of the Crystalline Confederation. We have watched you for many cycles and found you wanting. Both humans and elves lack the discipline needed for true civilization." The light inside her form pulsed brighter as she spoke. Admiral Zixandra's scales turned bright orange as she delivered their message. "We offer you one chance to avoid total destruction. You have 72 hours to surrender all human and elf territories to our alliance. Your people will become tributaries under our rule. You will serve us and follow our laws without question." Lisa felt her hands grip the armrests of her chair, but she kept her voice steady. "And if we refuse your generous offer?" Veltara made a sound like breaking glass that might have been laughter. "Then we will take your worlds by force. Your ships will burn and your colonies will belong to us anyway. The only difference is how many of your people die first." Her eyes moved in different directions as if she was already counting human casualties. Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward from her position at the science station. As the ship's xenobiologist, she had studied many alien cultures, but these 3 were new to her. "Perhaps we could discuss terms that benefit everyone," she said in her most diplomatic voice. "Surely there is room in the galaxy for all our peoples to coexist peacefully." Krisha's crystal form dimmed as if the suggestion offended her. "There is no discussion. We are not equals. You are children, playing with technology you barely understand while we have mastered the stars since before your species discovered fire." The light inside her pulsed with what looked like anger. "Your elf allies are no better. They hide behind their trees and think their magic makes them special." Admiral Zixandra leaned forward and her image filled the screen. "We have studied both your species carefully. Humans are individuals who cannot work together when things become difficult. Elves are dreamers who live too long and think too slowly. Neither of you has what it takes to fight a real war against united enemies." Lieutenant Nina Brooks checked her communication board and looked up at Lisa with confusion. "Captain, I'm getting reports from human colonies near elf space. The elves are receiving the same ultimatum at the same time." She adjusted her headset and listened more carefully. "It looks like they're giving everyone the same 72-hour deadline." Lisa stood up and walked closer to the screen. She had commanded ships for 15 years and fought in 3 different conflicts, but she had never faced anything like this. "Why 72 hours? Why not attack us now if you're so confident?" Veltara's mandibles clicked rapidly, which seemed to be her way of showing amusement. "Because we want you to understand how hopeless your situation is. We want you to look at your scattered fleets and realize you cannot win. When you surrender, it will be complete, and your people will know they chose the smart path." Admiral Zixandra's scales shifted to a deep purple color that somehow looked even more threatening. "Use your time wisely. Count your ships and compare them to ours. Ask your computers to calculate your chances. Speak to your leaders and your allies. When 72 hours pass, you will realize that resistance is not just futile but stupid. The crystal being Krisha spoke one final time. We are being generous by offering surrender. Most species we conquer do not get this choice. Do not mistake our mercy for weakness. Her form blazed with bright light for a moment before all three. Images disappeared from the screen. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Lisa looked around at her crew and saw her own thoughts reflected in their faces. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy alliance unlike anything in human history. But she also saw something else in their eyes. The same stubborn determination that had carried humans from Earth to the stars. Commander Kate Sullivan was the first to speak. Captain, we need to contact Earth Command immediately. They need to know what we're facing. She paused and checked her tactical display. We also need to reach out to the Sylvan Republic. If the elves got the same ultimatum, then we're both in the same situation. Dr. Amy Foster nodded eagerly. I've been studying elf culture for years, but we've never had a real crisis that required cooperation. This might be our chance to finally work together instead of just being polite neighbors. Lieutenant Nina Brooks looked up from her communication station with something that might have been excitement, despite the situation. Captain, I think I can establish a secure channel to elf space. My linguistic programs have been working on their communication protocols as a hobby project. Lisa walked back to her command chair and sat down heavily. She thought about Admiral Zixandra's words about humans being unable to work together when things got difficult. The alien had no idea how wrong she was. Humans had always been at their best when facing impossible odds. And now they had potential, allies who might feel the same way. Do it, Lisa ordered. Contact the elves and see if they want to talk. We have 72 hours to prove these aliens picked the wrong civilizations to threaten. Lieutenant Nina Brooks worked at her communication station for 2 hours before she managed to establish contact with the Sylvan Republic. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she adjusted frequencies and tried different translation protocols. When the elf signal finally came through clearly, she almost shouted with excitement. Captain, I have High Counselor Lyrelei Starweaver on the line, Nina announced. Lisa had heard the name before, but had never seen the legendary elf leader. When the image appeared on screen, she understood why the elves commanded such respect throughout the galaxy. Lyrelei looked exactly like what humans imagined when they thought of elf royalty. Her silver hair flowed like water, and her eyes held wisdom that came from living for centuries. She wore robes that seemed to shift color in the light, and when she spoke, her voice was calm, but filled with authority. Captain Morgan, Lyrelei said, without any formal greeting. I assume you received the same ultimatum from our uninvited guests. They seem to believe that threatening both our peoples at once was a clever strategy. Her lips curved in what might have been a smile, but her eyes remained serious. Lisa leaned forward in her chair. High Counselor, the aliens think we're too different to work together effectively. They expect us to fight separately and lose separately. She paused to consider her next words carefully. Maybe it's time we prove them wrong. Dr. Amy Foster stepped closer to the screen. She had studied elf culture for years, but this was her first chance to speak directly with one of their leaders. High Counselor Foster here. I specialize in interspecies relations, and I believe our peoples share more common ground than either side has realized. Lyrelei's expression became more interested. Dr. Foster, your reputation has reached our worlds. We have followed your research on peaceful coexistence between different species. The elf leader touched something off-screen, and another figure appeared beside her. The new elf was younger-looking with the lean build of a warrior. She wore dark clothing that seemed to blend with shadows, and her green eyes missed nothing as they studied the human bridge crew. This is Erin Moonwhisper, our finest ranger and scout, Lyrelei explained. She has been watching the alien fleet movements since they arrived in our space. Erin stepped forward, and her voice was crisp and professional. The 3 alien fleets are positioned in a triangle formation with each group maintaining distance from the others. Their communication patterns suggest they do not fully trust each other, despite their alliance. She touched controls that humans could not see, and data appeared on both screens. Commander Kate Sullivan studied the tactical information that Aaron shared. These formation patterns look familiar. They're positioning themselves to retreat quickly, if needed. She looked at Lisa with growing excitement. Captain, they're not as united as they want us to believe. Lyrelai nodded slowly. Our peoples have maintained polite distance for 2 centuries, but we have never been enemies. Perhaps it is time to discover what we can accomplish as friends. She gestured, and another elf appeared on screen. This one was clearly a warrior with intricate tattoos covering her arms and face. Her hair was braided with what looked like metal threads, and her eyes burned with fierce intelligence. Thalia Dawnbringer, she introduced herself. War mage and tactical advisor. I have been studying human military doctrine, and I find it surprisingly effective. Kate Sullivan smiled for the first time since the crisis began. War mage Sullivan, here. I'd be very interested in learning about elf combat techniques, especially anything involving stealth or misdirection. Dr. Amy Foster was taking notes rapidly as she watched the exchange. High Counselor, if our peoples are going to work together, we need to share technology and information quickly. Time is not on our side. Lyrelai seemed to consider this for a long moment. Dr. Foster, what you suggest goes against centuries of tradition for both our species. However, these are not normal circumstances. She looked directly at Lisa. Captain Morgan, are you prepared to trust us with human technology in exchange for elf knowledge? Lisa did not hesitate. High Counselor, if we're going to survive the next 70 hours, we need to try something these aliens won't expect. They think they know how humans and elves fight separately. Let's show them what we can do together. Aaron Moonwhisper spoke up from her position. Captain, I can be aboard your ship within 6 hours. My people have hyperspace navigation techniques that could help your fleet move unseen. She paused, and her expression became almost predatory. I also know where the alien scouts are positioned and how to remove them quietly. Thalia Dawnbringer smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. Commander Sullivan, I can teach your weapons officers how to channel energy in ways that will make your plasma cannons far more effective. In exchange, perhaps you could show me how humans coordinate multiple ship attacks. Lieutenant Nina Brooks looked up from her station with obvious excitement. High Counselor, I think I can establish secure communication links between our fleets. The Alien Alliance won't be able to intercept or decode our transmissions if I use both human encryption and elf linguistic patterns. Dr. Amy Foster was practically vibrating with enthusiasm. The scientific possibilities alone are incredible. Human technology tends to be mechanical and electronic, while elf methods seem to work with natural forces. Combined, they might create capabilities neither side could achieve alone. Lyrelai stood, and her robes flowed around her like liquid starlight. Then we are agreed. Aaron will coordinate with your tactical teams. Thalia will work with your weapons specialists. Our scientists will share stealth technology while your engineers help us improve our shield systems. She paused, and her ancient eyes grew hard. But first we need intelligence on our enemies. Aaron touched her controls again, and new information appeared. I have been tracking the alien patrols for the past day. They are confident enough to follow predictable patterns. Some of their smaller ships venture far from the main fleets. Her smile was sharp as a blade. Ships that disappear quietly might not be missed immediately. Captain Lisa felt something she had not experienced since the crisis began. Hope mixed with anticipation. Aaron, how quickly can you get here? I want to see these hyperspace routes for myself. Commander Kate Sullivan was already working at her tactical station. Captain, if we can make some of their ships vanish without them knowing how or why, it might make the aliens start questioning each other. Thalia Dawnbringer nodded approvingly. Doubt is a powerful weapon when used correctly. If each alien group begins to suspect the others of hidden agendas, their alliance becomes much weaker. Dr. Amy Foster looked between the screens showing both human and elf faces. High Counselor, this is happening faster than I ever imagined possible. Our species are about to become closer allies than anyone thought we could be. Lyrelai's expression became solemn. Dr. Foster, sometimes crisis creates opportunities that peace never offers. These aliens have given us something precious without realizing it. They have given us a reason to discover our combined strength, Lieutenant Nina Brooks announced from her station. All communication links are now secure and encrypted. Both fleets can coordinate without the aliens being able to monitor our transmissions. Lisa stood and faced the screen where Lyrelai waited. High Counselor, in 15 years of command, I have never faced odds like these, but I have also never had allies like you. These aliens think they know what humans and elves can do separately. She smiled, and it was fierce and determined. Let's teach them what we can accomplish together. Lyrelai returned the smile, and for a moment she looked less like an ancient counselor and more like the warrior she had probably been in her youth. Captain Morgan, I believe these aliens are about to learn that they have made a terrible mistake. They wanted to face two separate enemies. Instead, they will discover they have created something entirely new. Aaron Moonwhisper was already moving toward what humans assumed was an elf transport. Captain, I will see you in 6 hours. Have your best pilots ready to learn techniques that will change how humans think about space travel. Thalia Dawnbringer was gathering what looked like weapons and equipment. Commander Sullivan, prepare your weapons teams. When I arrive, we will begin creating combinations that neither humans nor elves have ever imagined. As the communication ended, Lisa looked around her bridge at faces that showed excitement instead of fear. In less than 3 hours, they had gone from facing impossible odds alone to having allies who brought capabilities beyond human understanding. The aliens had 72 hours to prepare for war against scattered enemies. Humans and elves now had 66 hours to become something their enemies could never have predicted. Aaron Moonwhisper arrived on the UES Defiance exactly 6 hours after her promise. She came aboard through a docking bay that somehow opened to receive her ship, even though no one had seen her vessel approach. Lieutenant Nina Brooks was the first to spot the sleek elf craft when it simply appeared next to their hull like it had always been there. Captain Lisa Morgan met Aaron in the docking bay and immediately understood why the elves were legendary throughout the galaxy. The Elf Ranger moved like water flowing around obstacles, and her green eyes seemed to see everything at once. She carried weapons that looked grown rather than manufactured, and wore armor that shifted color to match her surroundings. Captain Morgan, Aaron said with a slight bow, I bring greetings from High Counselor Lyrelai and information your enemies do not want you to have. She touched a device on her wrist and holographic images filled the air around them. The Alien Alliance has positioned scout ships throughout this sector, but they follow patterns that make them predictable. Commander, Kate Sullivan studied the tactical display that showed alien patrol routes. Aaron, these scouts are staying well away from each other. It's like each species doesn't trust the others even for basic reconnaissance. Aaron's smile was sharp and predatory. Commander, your observation is correct. I have been watching their communications, and each group reports only to their own command structure. They share information, but they do not coordinate operations. She touched her device again, and the display changed. This gives us opportunities they do not realize they have created. Dr. Amy Foster joined them in the docking bay, carrying a portable scanner. Aaron, I've been studying the energy signatures from your ship. The stealth technology operates on principles we've never encountered before. She looked at her readings with obvious excitement. Could this be adapted to human vessels? The Elf Ranger considered the question carefully. Dr. Foster, human ships generate different energy patterns than elf vessels. However, your shield systems could be modified to bend light and sensor beams around your hulls. She paused and tilted her head thoughtfully. Combined with your electronic warfare capabilities, the result might be even more effective than pure elf stealth. Thalia Dawnbringer materialized on the bridge while they were still talking in the docking bay. Lisa later learned that the war mage had simply walked through the ship's hull using techniques that human science could not explain. When the bridge crew noticed her presence, she was already examining their weapon control systems with professional interest. Commander Sullivan, Thalia said without any greeting formalities, your plasma cannon arrays are impressive, but they waste much energy through dispersal. She touched the control panel and somehow made the displays show power flow patterns. With proper focusing techniques, you could triple their effective range and double their impact force. Kate Sullivan stared at the readings that showed improvements beyond anything human engineers had achieved. Thalia, how is this possible? We've been developing plasma weapons for 50 years and never discovered these efficiency gains. The elf war mage smiled, and her tattoos seemed to glow faintly. Commander, your people approach energy as something to be contained and directed. We see it as something to be guided and shaped. She gestured, and the weapon display changed again. Your technology provides the raw power, while our methods provide the control. Lieutenant Nina Brooks was monitoring communications when she detected something unusual. Captain, I'm receiving coded transmissions between the alien fleets. They're using different encryption methods, and the messages are not being shared between all three groups. Lisa returned to the bridge with Aaron following close behind. Nina, what kind of messages are we intercepting? The communications officer adjusted her equipment and frowned at the readings. Captain, it looks like status reports and position updates, but each alien group is sending different information to their allies. Either they're being deliberately deceptive or they're not fully coordinating their operations. Aaron moved to Nina's station and studied the communication patterns. Lieutenant, may I suggest modifications to your intercept programs? Elf listening techniques might reveal more than these aliens intend to broadcast. She touched Nina's console and somehow integrated elf technology with human electronics. Within minutes, the bridge speakers filled with alien voices speaking in their own languages. Nina's translation programs combined with elf linguistic knowledge to make the conversations understandable. What they heard made everyone on the bridge exchange meaningful looks. Admiral Zixandra's voice came through clearly as she spoke to her reptilian officers. Maintain distance from the insect ships. Their pheromone communications make our crew uncomfortable and we cannot be certain of their true intentions. Veltara's clicking voice followed as she addressed her swarm commanders. The crystal beings claim to support our alliance, but they share limited tactical information. Watch them carefully and be prepared for independent action. Krisha's chiming tones were last as she spoke to her Confederation fleet. The biological species are predictably emotional and may become unreliable when combat begins. Ensure our ships can withdraw quickly if their alliance proves temporary. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her scanner with growing excitement. Captain, they don't trust each other at all. They're allied against us, but they're also preparing to abandon or betray their partners if things go badly. Commander Kate Sullivan was already working on tactical plans. Captain, if we can exploit their mutual suspicion, we might be able to turn them against each other. We just need to give them reasons to doubt their allies' loyalty. Aaron studied the bridge displays and nodded approvingly. Commander, your human strategic thinking combined with elf deception techniques could create very effective psychological warfare. She touched her wrist device and new information appeared. I have identified 17 isolated alien scout ships that could disappear without immediate detection. Thalia appeared next to Kate's tactical station without anyone seeing her move. Commander, if we eliminate scouts from different alien groups but make each disappearance look like the work of their supposed allies, we could accelerate their mutual distrust. Lisa felt excitement building as she watched her crew work with their new elf allies. Aaron, how quickly can you teach our pilots to use elf hyperspace navigation? I want to start hunting these scouts immediately. The elf ranger smiled, and her expression promised swift and silent death for their enemies. Captain, your best pilots can learn basic techniques within hours. Advanced methods will take longer, but what they learn quickly will be sufficient for stealth attacks. Dr. Amy Foster was taking detailed notes as she observed the integration of human and elf capabilities. Captain, what we're witnessing is unprecedented. Two completely different approaches to technology and warfare are creating hybrid methods that neither species could develop alone, Lieutenant Nina Brooks announced from her station. Captain, I now have complete access to alien communication networks. Between human decryption and elf linguistic analysis, we can monitor everything they say to each other. Commander Kate Sullivan looked up from her tactical planning. Captain, we have 48 hours before their deadline expires. I recommend we spend the next 12 hours training combined human-elf teams and then begin systematic elimination of their scout network. Aaron was already heading toward the docking bay. Captain, I will begin teaching your pilots immediately. Select your most adaptable crew members because elf navigation requires thinking about space and time differently than humans normally do. Thalia moved to the weapons station where she began working with the duty officers. Commander Sullivan, I will show your gunners how to focus plasma streams with techniques that your enemies will not recognize or understand. Lisa stood in the center of her bridge and watched her crew begin learning capabilities that would have seemed like magic just hours earlier. Nina, begin recording everything the aliens say to each other. I want to know every doubt and suspicion they harbor about their allies. Dr. Amy Foster was practically glowing with scientific enthusiasm. Captain, I'm documenting all the technological integration we're achieving. The implications for future human-elf cooperation are extraordinary. Kate. Sullivan was coordinating with both human and elf tactical advisors. Captain, I'm developing strike plans that use combined stealth and firepower. These alien scouts won't know what hit them, and their own allies will become the primary suspects. Aaron returned from the docking bay with 5 human pilots who looked slightly dazed but determined. Captain, these volunteers have learned enough elf navigation to begin stealth operations. They describe the experience as thinking in directions that do not normally exist. Lisa looked around her bridge at humans and elves working together with an efficiency that surprised everyone. All right, people, we have our strategy. We hunt their scouts using stealth they cannot detect. We make each attack look like betrayal by their supposed allies, and we use their own communications to spread suspicion and doubt. The alien deadline passed without any surrender from humans or elves. Admiral Zixandra stood on the bridge of her flagship expecting to begin an easy conquest, but instead received reports that made her scales shift to confused purple colors. Nearly 30% of her alliance's forward scout fleet had simply vanished during the past 24 hours. Admiral, her communications officer reported with obvious nervousness. We have lost contact with 17 reconnaissance vessels. No distress signals were received and no debris has been detected. The reptilian officer consulted his instruments again. The missing ships include forces from all 3 allied fleets. Zixandra moved to her tactical display and studied the patrol routes where ships had disappeared. Each missing vessel had been operating alone in areas where the other allied species also had scouts positioned. Have we confirmed the locations of all insect and crystal reconnaissance craft? Her tactical officer checked multiple screens before responding. Admiral, 6 of our missing ships were last detected near insectoid patrol zones. 4 others vanished close to crystalline Confederation scout positions. He paused and his voice became uncertain. The remaining ships disappeared in areas where we had no allied vessels nearby. Meanwhile, aboard Veltara's hive ship, the Insectoid, commander was receiving similar reports from her swarm officers. Her multiple eyes moved independently as she processed information about missing scouts and unexplained communication gaps. The pattern of disappearances made her mandibles click with growing agitation. Queen Daughter, her navigation specialist, reported. 11 of our reconnaissance drones have failed to report according to schedule. Analysis suggests possible interference from reptilian or crystalline forces. The insect officer's antennae twitched nervously. Some disappeared near Allied patrol routes, but others vanished in sectors where no friendly forces were operating. Veltara's compound eyes focused on different tactical displays simultaneously. Show me the precise coordinates where our scouts went missing. Compare those locations with known positions of our supposed allies. When the data appeared, she made the harsh buzzing sound that indicated deep suspicion among her species. Krisha faced the same troubling reports aboard her Crystal Confederation command vessel. Her crystalline form pulsed with agitated light, patterns as she received updates about missing ships and broken communication links. The energy being had begun to suspect that her biological allies were not as trustworthy as their alliance agreements claimed. Confederation leader, her sensor officer reported in harmonic tones. 7 of our advanced scouts have ceased transmission without explanation. The last known positions of 4 vessels placed them near reptilian patrol sectors. The Crystal officer's form dimmed with concern. 3 others disappeared while operating close to insectoid swarm reconnaissance areas. Captain Lisa Morgan stood on her bridge and watched the alien communication intercepts with deep satisfaction. Lieutenant Nina Brooks had been monitoring all 3 alien fleets for the past day, and the conversations they overheard revealed growing suspicion and anger between the supposed allies. Captain, Nina reported with barely concealed excitement. The aliens are definitely starting to blame each other for the missing scouts. Admiral Zixandra just accused the insectoids of conducting unauthorized operations. Veltara responded by questioning why so many crystal ships were operating near swarm patrol zones. Commander Kate Sullivan was coordinating the psychological warfare campaign with Thalia Dawnbringer and Aaron Moonwhisper. The combined human-elf team had spent the past day planting evidence and staging false encounters designed to increase alien paranoia about their alliance partners. Captain, the deception operations are working better than we hoped, Kate reported. Every time we eliminate an alien scout, we leave evidence suggesting one of their allies was responsible. Thalia's illusion techniques make our attacks look like reptilian weapons or insectoid tactics or crystalline energy patterns. Dr. Amy Foster was documenting the psychological aspects of their strategy. Captain, the aliens are predisposed to distrust each other because they entered this alliance for convenience rather than genuine cooperation. They expected easy victories over divided enemies and never prepared for coordinated resistance. Aaron, Moonwhisper, appeared next to Lisa's command chair, using the movement techniques that still amaze the human crew. Captain, I have completed reconnaissance of the main alien fleet positions. Each group maintains significant separation from their allies, and their defensive formations are designed for quick withdrawal rather than mutual support. Thalia Dawnbringer was working at the weapons station where she had been teaching human gunners advanced energy manipulation techniques. Commander Sullivan, our hybrid weapon systems are performing beyond all expectations. When we engage the enemy fleets, they will face firepower they cannot understand or counter effectively. Lisa studied the tactical displays that showed alien fleet positions and communication patterns. Aaron, how close can we get to their command vessels without detection? I want to plant evidence directly in their computer systems that will convince each group their allies are planning betrayal. The elf ranger smiled with predatory anticipation. Captain, using combined human stealth technology and elf phase-shifting techniques, we can infiltrate their command centers without triggering any security systems. She touched her wrist device, and detailed schematics appeared. I have identified optimal approach routes to all 3 flagship vessels. Commander Kate Sullivan looked up from her planning session with Thalia. Captain, if we can access their internal communications, we could send false messages between the Allied fleets. Each group would receive orders that appear to come from their partners but actually serve our strategic goals. Dr. Amy Foster was monitoring alien psychological profiles based on their intercepted communications. Captain, their alliance is fracturing faster than we anticipated. Admiral Zixandra is already positioning her forces for independent action. Veltara has recalled several swarm units to protect her flagship. Krisha has begun charging her Confederation weapon systems. Lieutenant Nina Brooks announced urgent new intercepts. Captain, the aliens are now openly arguing about missing scouts and unauthorized operations. Admiral Zixandra just demanded that Veltara explain why insectoid pheromone traces were detected near a missing reptilian vessel. Lisa felt the momentum, building toward the confrontation that would determine the fate of both human and elf civilizations. Nina, record everything they say to each other. I want complete documentation of how quickly their alliance disintegrates when faced with real resistance. Aaron was preparing for the infiltration mission that would complete their psychological warfare campaign. Captain, I will require 1 human computer specialist to accompany me. The infiltration will combine elf stealth with human data manipulation to plant evidence that destroys any remaining trust between the alien groups. Kate Sullivan volunteered immediately. Captain, I'll go with Aaron. Between my tactical knowledge and her infiltration skills, we can access their command systems and plant information that will turn them completely against each other. Thalia moved to join the planning session, and her tattooed arms glowed faintly as she prepared combat magic that humans were only beginning to understand. Commander, while you plant evidence in their computers, I will create illusions that make each alien flagship appear to be targeting their supposed allies. Dr. Amy Foster was analyzing the cultural psychology that made the alien alliance vulnerable to their deception tactics. Captain, none of these species have experience working with genuine equals. They formed this alliance expecting to dominate weaker enemies, but they cannot cooperate effectively when facing coordinated resistance. Lisa stood and addressed her combined human-elf crew. All right, people, we're going to complete the destruction of their alliance before they realize what's happening. Aaron and Kate will infiltrate their command centers. Thalia will create tactical illusions. Nina will monitor their communications as they turn on each other. The captain walked to her tactical display and studied the alien fleet positions one final time. These aliens thought they could threaten humans and elves with superior numbers and ancient experience. They never imagined that our combined capabilities would make their alliance a weakness rather than a strength. Commander Kate. Sullivan was already suiting up for the infiltration mission. Captain, by the time we finish with their command systems, each alien group will be convinced their partners are preparing to eliminate them. They'll be so busy watching each other they won't notice us preparing our real attack. Erin checked her equipment and weapons with practiced efficiency. Captain, when we return from this mission, the alien alliance will exist only on paper. In reality, they will be 3 separate enemies fighting each other while trying to fight us. Lisa smiled with grim satisfaction as she watched her crew prepare for the operation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Let's remind these aliens why threatening humans and elves was the worst mistake they ever made. The infiltration mission succeeded beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Commander Kate Sullivan and Aaron Moonwhisper returned to the UES Defiance with proof that the alien alliance had completely collapsed. The evidence they planted in each flagship's computer systems convinced every alien commander that their supposed allies were preparing immediate betrayal attacks. Captain Lisa Morgan stood on her bridge watching the alien fleets tear each other apart through intercepted communications and long-range sensors. Admiral Zixandra's reptilian forces were exchanging plasma fire with Veltara's insectoid swarms, while both groups maneuvered to avoid Krisha's crystalline Confederation energy weapons. Captain Lieutenant Nina Brooks reported with obvious amazement. The aliens are in complete disarray. Each group believes the others fired first, and they're all fighting for survival now. Their coordination has broken down entirely. Dr. Amy Foster was documenting the psychological collapse that had destroyed the alien alliance in less than 72 hours. Captain, what we're witnessing proves that forced alliances between incompatible cultures cannot withstand sustained pressure. Their mutual distrust made them vulnerable to exactly the kind of psychological warfare we employed. Thalia Dawnbringer appeared beside the tactical station, where she had been working with human weapons officers. Captain, the aliens have weakened themselves so much fighting each other that each remaining fleet is now smaller than our combined human-elf forces. Aaron Moonwhisper was monitoring alien fleet movements from her position near the navigation console. Captain Admiral Zixandra has lost 40% of her ships to insectoid attacks. Veltara's swarms have been reduced by 35% due to reptilian and crystalline weapons. Krisha's Confederation has suffered the least damage, but her forces are retreating toward their home territory. Commander Kate Sullivan was coordinating final attack plans with both human and elf tactical advisors. Captain, our combined fleets are now in position to engage each weakened alien group separately. The reptilian and insectoid forces are so focused on fighting each other, they won't detect our approach until we're already attacking. Lisa felt a mixture of satisfaction and grim determination as she prepared to end the threat that had brought humans and elves together as allies. All ships move to attack positions. We'll hit the reptilian and insectoid fleets while they're engaged with each other. The crystalline forces are already withdrawing, so we'll deal with them if they decide to return. The combined human-elf fleet moved through hyperspace using navigation techniques that neither species could have mastered alone. Elf bioships integrated human shield generators and weapons systems, while human vessels carried elf stealth technology and energy-focusing equipment that tripled their firepower. Admiral Zixandra realized too late that her fleet faced new enemies when plasma beams with impossible accuracy began destroying her ships. The reptilian commander had been so focused on fighting insectoids that she never noticed the approaching human-elf force until her flagship's shields were already failing. "This is impossible," Zixandra hissed as she watched her tactical displays show weapon signatures that combined human and elf technologies. How are primitive species generating this level of coordinated firepower? Her scales shifted to colors that indicated panic and disbelief. Captain Lisa Morgan opened a communication channel to the reptilian flagship just as Zixandra's ship began listing from critical damage. "Admiral, you made a serious mistake when you assumed humans and elves couldn't work together effectively. You also underestimated what happens when you threaten people who refuse to surrender." The reptilian commander's image appeared on screen, showing obvious shock and growing fear. "Captain Morgan, your species lacks the unity needed for true warfare. You are individuals who cannot maintain coordination under pressure." Even as she spoke, her ship shook from another volley of hybrid human-elf weapons. Lisa smiled without any warmth. "Admiral, you confused independence with inability to cooperate. Humans work together when we choose to fight for something important. You gave us something very important to fight for when you threatened our freedom." Veltara's insectoid swarms fared no better when they found themselves caught between reptilian forces and the unexpected human-elf alliance. The swarm commander had relied on numerical superiority and hive mind coordination, but discovered that individual thinking combined with voluntary cooperation created tactical advantages she could not counter. Impossible coordination patterns! Veltara clicked frantically as her remaining ships tried to escape the systematic destruction of her fleet. Biological individuals cannot achieve this level of unified action without central control mechanisms. Aaron Moon Whisper was leading combined fighter squadrons that moved through space using techniques that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Swarm Queen Daughter, you misunderstood the difference between forced obedience and chosen cooperation. Humans and elves fight together because we decided to trust each other. Dr. Amy Foster was monitoring the psychological state of the alien commanders as their fleets disintegrated. Captain both Admiral Zix Andra and Veltara are experiencing cognitive dissonance. Their core beliefs about inferior species are being destroyed by evidence they cannot deny. The crystalline Confederation forces under Krisha had already begun withdrawing when they detected the approach of the human-elf alliance. The energy-being commander recognized that her biological allies had failed completely, and that continued. Fighting would only result in the destruction of her own fleet. Confederation leader, her tactical officer reported in harmonic tones. The biological species have been defeated by the combined primitive forces. Recommend immediate withdrawal to safe distance for reassessment of enemy capabilities. Krisha's crystalline form pulsed with frustrated light patterns. Acknowledged. Signal general retreat to all remaining vessels. We will not repeat the mistakes of our former allies. Her voice carried tones of bitter acknowledgement. These primitive species have demonstrated capabilities we did not anticipate. Lieutenant Nina Brooks intercepted the Crystalline Confederation's retreat communications. Captain Krisha is ordering all her forces to withdraw beyond our sensor range. She's also sending messages to her home worlds warning them about underestimating human and elf combined capabilities. Commander Kate Sullivan was coordinating mop-up operations against the scattered remnants of reptilian and insectoid forces. Captain, both enemy fleets are effectively destroyed. Admiral Zixandra's flagship is requesting permission to surrender, and Veltara appears to be attempting escape with her surviving vessels. Lisa considered the tactical situation and made her decision. Grant surrender terms to any aliens who want to stop fighting. Let Veltara run back to her swarm territories with whatever ships remain. I want them to carry word about what happens when you pick a fight with humans and elves. Dr. Amy Foster was already preparing diplomatic protocols for dealing with alien, surrender, and withdrawal. Captain, I recommend we establish clear terms that prevent any future aggression while allowing the surviving aliens to maintain dignity. Humiliated enemies sometimes become more dangerous than defeated ones. Thalia, Dawnbringer was working with human engineers to document all the technological advances achieved through their cooperation. Captain, the weapon and defense improvements we developed during this crisis could change how both our species approach space exploration and defense. Aaron Moonwhisper was planning expanded reconnaissance missions to ensure no other alien powers were preparing similar threats. Captain, our combined intelligence capabilities now extend far beyond anything either humans or elves could achieve separately. We should maintain close cooperation for mutual security. Lisa walked to her command chair and sat down as she watched the last alien vessels flee beyond sensor range. Nina, send a message to High Counselor Liralai. Tell her that the immediate threat has been eliminated and that I'd like to discuss establishing permanent human-elf cooperation agreements. Commander Kate Sullivan was reviewing battle damage reports and tactical assessments. Captain, our combined losses were minimal compared to what either species might have suffered fighting alone. The aliens lost over 70% of their total fleet strength while we maintained nearly full operational capacity. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her diplomatic preparations with obvious excitement. Captain, what we've accomplished here goes far beyond military victory. We've proven that very different species can achieve remarkable things when they choose to work together instead of remaining isolated. The communication screen activated to show High Counselor Lyrelay Starweaver in her council chambers on the Elf homeworld. Captain Morgan, I have received reports of complete victory over the Alien Alliance. On behalf of the Sylvan Republic, I extend gratitude for human cooperation and courage during this crisis. Lisa stood and faced the screen with respect and genuine friendship. High Counselor, the victory belongs to both our peoples equally. Human determination combined with elf wisdom and capabilities created something neither species could have achieved alone.